I got a couple things I'm going to go over with you, but then if you remember from last week, and I know some of you weren't on last week, travels and different things, but April's got a training tonight for handling objections. So let me just ask you a question. How many of you get objections when you mention our products or our business opportunity from other people? Is is anyone ever hear any? I had a great and again I got a couple things I'll go over with you, but I had a great one. So much of the objection that you get, a lot of it is said to see how you behave when it's said. And April and I are doing a lot of cold market stuff these days, so there's no relationship whatsoever when you're first starting with dealing with cold market. They saw an ad somewhere and they answered it, and you don't mean nothing to them. But the attitude that you have when addressing it is really, really important. And last week, let's see, not this past weekend, the one before, I think we were playing pickleball coming back. But one of the leads that I had spoken to had a chance to review the information, watched one of our replays of our launch from the Opportunity Zoom from last month. And basically, without getting too long-winded with it, he said, I've always been told to stay away from those pyramids. So I'm reading this on a text, and I just smiled like I am now. I just smiled and I said, I am really in the mood to play with this guy and wrestle with him for a while. I can't wait for pickleball to be over and just wrestle with him for a little bit. And the reason I share that with you is I have to call him after we finish this tonight. He's joining us tonight in business. So and they don't all work out that way. But what's really funny is depending, a lot of people would be offended by that. I think it's funny. And my line has always been, do you got a good legal one? I do. I like to say stuff like that to them. It doesn't offend me one bit. And it's so much of it is your attitude, and I don't know that there's anyone better than April with dealing with it. I get to hear her, my office on the first floor, hers on the third floor, but I get to hear it sometimes, and you can kind of tell when people have said something that was kind of boneheaded, and you hear the response going back. But that's as April goes through things with you, I want you to understand there's nothing more important than your attitude. I don't care what the objection is. I learned early, and April and I had the same mentor. You know, we learned very early on that all somebody is saying, they dream up an objection, but all they're really saying is, do you think somebody like me could do a business like this? That's real, and it's just a defense mechanism that they put up. But if you have fun and entertain it, and you'll see. Okay, so I got a couple slides I want to use, and then the show is all April's after that. So April, there's some people waiting to get in.
No, Alex is having trouble joining, but I think he joined twice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I just looking for my slides, so just bear with me for a sec. April, just take over the chat for a while. I have to pull my slides back up.
Okay. All right. So, one of the things that we're going to do, and we're not going to do a training coming back from global, and I hope you all are going. There's so many reasons why we need to be a global. The belief it'll put in that'll help with all these objections and stuff. But coming back from global, we're going to have, our live business overview on Monday night, which is at 8:30 as it is normal. So if you've not had that, mark it on your calendar. As you go through the week, like I just wrote somebody in, you should be writing people in that you kind of have a conversation with and are kind of moving towards. And I just said, I'd send the invite out as we got closer. But we should be making up our list on who we want to have on that. So that'll be a moment too. Do you want me to just pull my slides up and then you can close it out since you're,
I think I have it. Let me
okay,
just
there you
see.
go. Okay,
Did that
good.
come up?
Yep.
Okay, I thought. All right, so there's just a couple things I want to mention, and April started a little bit with our live opportunity meeting 1 week from tonight. But the one thing that we would like to really see you do, and that we're planning on doing ourselves, while we're at Global, before you get there, think about being prepared and active and sharing things with teammates. You know, we're hoping to see you all there, but we know it's never 100%. We get that. It just doesn't work that way. But you could do your best to make them feel like they are there, even though they're not, by keeping them informed with things as they happen. So just keep in mind, have your text groups, there. Okay, have them ready to roll. Have your email groups ready to roll. Social media is always there, but when something happens live at Global, send it out as if they got it live. Do your best to keep them informed. And, look, there's a lot of FOMO that goes off, fear of missing out. And that's good because you do miss out when you're not there live. But we also want to take advantage of the energy that is there and try and share it out in the field as effectively and quickly as we can. So, do your best with that. And then, next Sunday night will be, did you say we weren't on Sunday night, April? You didn't say that, did you?
No,
Oh, okay.
we're
Next
on Sunday
Sunday
night.
night,
Yeah.
when we get back, we're going to give obviously a recap of what went on at Global, but really just kind of a last minute preparation for the Monday night live opportunity Zoom, which is the 28th. So it's 1 week from today, and it's this here. You've seen this before. So obviously there's going to be a lot of excitement on that. Whatever is new and is shared with us while we're at Global will be incorporated into that. So, there's certain things, and I've said this in previous months, that really require more of your attention. There's certain days, there's certain events. And, if you're not going to be a Global, filling up that Zoom with guests next Monday night will be the next best, most effective thing that you can do, because they're going to get to hear about the things that are pertinent to them. Remember, it's an opportunity presentation, so they don't really care about what went on in a company they're not in yet. But what'll get them excited is learning about the things that are going on in a company they're thinking about getting in. Okay, and we'll focus on that. So those are the kind of the two things I wanted to mention here. Keep your group informed live. There's going to be a cool party on, what is it, Thursday night and Friday night, April, or Friday? It's Thursday and
Thursday,
Friday. There's
Friday. Yeah.
like a 70s, 80s type of party on Thursday, and then what is the gambling type of thing,
Yeah.
black
More
tie,
formal,
formal.
formal.
So there's going to be some fun stuff. Send those pictures back to teammates. Send those events, and make sure you're taking plenty of video and pictures. This is a chance for you to fill your library up. With stuff when you're wondering what to post, or you don't know what to post and stuff, you can load up your library with things, when you're a Global. So just plan on doing a lot of filming if you are there. But let me stop the share. And April, I'm going to give it to you.
Okay.
I'm anxious to hear what you got to say too, even though I hear you live all the time.
Yep. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and play my slideshow. Hopefully you can see that. As promised from last week, we're going to talk about objections a little bit here. Bobby started this in the beginning. There's three reasons, maybe four. There's three reasons why you're going to get objections. So the first one is they don't have enough information, and that's totally fine. So, we'll go over how to handle some of this, but not enough information can be why you're getting an objection. And, maybe not next week because we have the business overview on Monday night, but the following week, maybe we'll talk about how to start the conversation, how long the conversation should be, and what the story looks like. But, not enough information can certainly help or, create some objections. And those are pretty easy to handle. The second one that comes up a lot is a previous negative experience. And you've all heard this. My brother got in a company and he failed miserably, or, I've tried them over and over again. I can't do this, or all weight loss products don't, whatever, it's just something from a previous negative experience is there. And we'll talk about how to handle this as well. And then the third one is really tricky. It's doubt. It's doubt that they've picked up that you're portraying across. And that happens a lot. You may not believe it, but if you get the same objection over and over again, one could be price. If they keep telling you it's price, or if it's, oh, it's multi-level marketing, or whatever the objection may be, it's probably you. It's probably something coming across, and we're going to talk about how to handle that as well. So what can we do about these objections? So when people don't have enough information, they're going to ask questions. And like I said, that's really easy to answer. I always say, you'll hear me say the word great probably 100, 200 times, 300 times a day. Everything is great. That's a great question, I'll just say, why do you say that? Or why do you think that? Or what made you think about that? So I can get a handle on where they're coming from. One of the worst things we can do as a conversation is think we understand what they're asking. We need to be super clear on what they're asking. And people don't mind if you ask a lot of questions. So, sometimes their tone can say what they're thinking, but better to ask a question, why are you saying that? Or where did you get that from? Or, that's a great question. Tell me more why you're asking that. Anything like that, just ask more questions so you can know where it's coming from. And a lot of times just those few words is not enough. But if they've picked up on doubt, we all have this intuition, this BS meter, whatever it might be, that we can feel from people when we feel that they don't truly believe. And, this is one of the hardest industries, because I always say, not only to share it with somebody new, but sometimes for ourselves, particularly if we haven't been to global, if we haven't been, I've been telling people, if you have not been to the home headquarters, you got to go. That's part of your story going forward. You can say, I was at the headquarters. I physically was there, because this is a business you can't feel, see, and touch. So there are some things that we're going to talk about how we can overcome that doubt. But again, if you get the same question a few times, it's you. Those same questions aren't going to come up. Questions come up, different questions, different angles. But if you're getting the same one over and over again, it's probably your belief. You probably either believe there's no value in the product, it's too expensive, no value in multi-level, whatever it might be. We have to get over that so that you don't keep having that objection. So this is how we're going to overcome it. Company events. I understand global can be expensive, travel, but there are regionals. Look on the big blue calendar again. Find a regional, make sure you get to as many company events. Business is easier and harder these days because, we're doing everything on Zooms, we're doing everything on phone calls, and it's nice. We get to sit home, we can be in comfy clothes, we don't have to travel, we're not running here and there, but we lose that personal touch, and that personal touch a lot of times is the belief factor. So important that when you do know the company is doing something, you take part in it, even if it's a small local meeting. Bobby and I, when we first got involved, man, we were all over the place, going to every little local meeting. And I can tell you, we were at meetings where no guests showed up, and we're like, why are they doing a meeting when there's no guests, or it was a crazy meeting. Or I can tell you, one of the leaders had a meeting and it looked like we were in a strip club with a globe going around and stuff. I mean, crazy meetings we went to, but that's how you pick up that belief. reading about our industry. There are so many smart people that understand our industry, but there's a whole lot more people that are totally ignorant and really do not understand our industry. So, again, if you're in an area off by yourself, start reading about our industry. I mean, I truly, truly believe, and you've heard like some people like, our President Trump and some other people, businessmen that have been extremely successful, if they had to start over again, have said, this is what they would do. This is how they would start, because we all know in our industry, low startup, but there could be huge gains. It's not easy, but it is simple. So, best industry in the world out there for making money. But surround yourself with positive people, leaders in your industry or your company. Again, we have a super cool company. People are so willing to give their time to help other people out in our company. It's crazy. I've never seen anything like it. And so thankful that we're here. Personal development, you can't have enough personal development in this business. It's been 32 years for Bobby and I, and we are still learning all the time and looking to learn and just thirsty for it, because, our industry has changed. And then probably the biggest thing for us is we found a mentor early on. We were blessed to have a mentor. So important that you have somebody that can kind of teach you the ropes and take you along and stuff. So that's super important there. So that's how you're going to overcome the doubt that you may have. And again, if you're just getting that same question again and again, there's some doubt there. So we need to work on that. So here are some objections I picked up. I didn't get a whole lot from all of you. I've got a few, but these are, I think, the ones that come up the most. People perceive that they're so busy these days. Busy doing things. I kind of joke, I was talking to a woman earlier today, and, she said to me, I did 3 loads of laundry today. And I thought, is that it? I mean, I'm like, you're really busy, So busy can be a perceived thing, but you can't say that to somebody. And I didn't say anything negative. And I'm like, I totally get it. We're all so super busy. I understand that. But the big thing here is we have to make sure that they realize this is unlike any other way that they can earn money. Not big chunks of time. So, I'll simply say, this is something you can fit into the small pockets of your day, while you're waiting for the kids. If they have kids, I'll say that. If they don't have kids, I don't say that. If they're working full time, I may say breaks during the day, lunch breaks. And that's exactly how I did it. We had 2 small kids at that point, and I used to just keep the notes on my car because I would be going from a job site and out of the office. And I just, through the day, I had my notes as to who I was going to call and what time. So you don't need a lot of time. There are people that I know have built big businesses in this company just during their drive to and from work. So if you keep yourself organized. So again, you just, whatever their story is, whatever they're doing, working, kids, whatever, small pockets of your day. But that's a great question. People think that they need, like driving Uber or some kind of job, they need 3, 4, 5 hours a day or something. So, that's what I say. I'd also, maybe if I didn't feel they were appreciating that enough, I would say, what else are you considering doing? Just to get, again, more questions and let them come to the realization that there's probably not a lot. If they perceive this to be too much time, there's probably not a lot they can do to earn money. And if they need to earn money, this is how they're going to do it. So that would be the objection of, I don't have time. And if you want to take screenshots or whatever, again, I always kind of just mold it to the person that I am talking to. Okay. Okay. This is a popular one. I think a lot of times we'll get, is this one of those things, or is this a pyramid? I would say listen carefully to how this is done. We have a story, we go way back to when we first got involved. And you gotta, I guess, maybe some background on this. One of the things that Bobby did in particular, I was there, but we actually did some pyramids with our math teacher, believe this or not. So it was totally illegal. It was a bust on the front of the newspaper and stuff. We didn't get in trouble, but our math teacher did. So for us, a pyramid back then was kind of a fun thing we did. We realized we could lose the money, but so it kind of, that time, had a positive spin on it. It wasn't quite as negative. But I did have a gentleman when we first got involved just say, is this one of those pyramids? And he said it like that. And I knew based on the way he was saying it, it was a positive. So I'm saying that because this can be a positive or this can be a negative. You just have to ask, but just ask them, why do you say that? Do you have experience with pyramids? What do you think of a pyramid is? The other thing more nowadays too, based on what they say is, you do know pyramids are illegal. And do I look like I'd be promoting on Facebook an illegal pyramid? I mean, you just kind of take it back like, oh my goodness, I wouldn't be doing anything illegal. Maybe they don't even realize the difference. And this is where most people are coming from. They don't realize the difference between multi-level marketing and a pyramid, and they put them all together. So, again, a little bit of education here is fine. And I say, plus, LifeVantage is a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ. And as you know, the SEC is always watching over the Federal Trade Commission. They got eyes on us all the time. So just letting them know more about our company and how great it is. But don't take it in a negative way when they said, is this one of those things or is this a pyramid? Again, for me, a lot of times it's just ignorance. People are just totally ignorant about, what a pyramid is, multi-level marketing. They just don't get it, It costs too much, as I said, here, I think a lot of times that comes from our belief in the product, if we haven't been using the product particularly, a lot of times people get involved and they want to get involved on a shoestring budget, which is totally fine. They're getting started, but maybe they're not using some of the products. So, I agree, if the product doesn't work, it's a very expensive product, but I know the product works. And so that generally will stop that right there. Or if it's pro tandem, I can just elaborate a little and let them know, for $2 a day, you're getting the equivalent of eating 11 pounds of blueberries, 375 oranges, 120 tablets of vitamin C, and 87 glasses of red wine. Do you understand how much that would expend? So, or what's the cost of a hospital visit these days, or your doctor's visit, your copay compared to being sick? So sometimes we just need to kind of put them in reality where all they're worrying about is what they're spending. And this goes for the opportunity too. A lot of times people be like, how much does that cost to get started? Well, it shouldn't be how much it costs to get started. How much is it going to cost you if you don't start? If you don't start earning money, what is the quality of life to your family going to be? You're not going to be able to watch those kids. You're going to have to leave those kids at home and go get a real job where you're out of the house for 10 hours a day instead of where you could be making that money while you're able to bring them to school and be at all their plays and baseball practices and stuff. So a lot of times we just kind of got to bring them back to reality. Instead of they're worrying about what they're going to lose, they should have an appreciation for what they can actually gain. And then this was a two-part. Someone had asked, I'm already taking something. I'd say, great. Are you happy with the results? What kind of results are you getting from that? What are the benefits that they're getting from it? A lot of times people took collagen. I'm taking collagen. I'm already taking it. Well, have you seen a difference? Not really. Well, I have with mine. I've seen great. You want to see my 30-day picture? You want to see my 60-day picture? And they're like, wow. Okay. So, again, we just have to sometimes just, ask for a little bit more information on what's going on. Okay, this was another one someone asked. Patients want immediate results on weight loss. They don't want to wait by taking our products. Again, sometimes I think people talk because they like to hear themselves. I think they want to appear smarter than they actually are, or they just want to continue the conversation. And sometimes you need to be aware of those, but I'll always say great, or I totally get that, who doesn't want results yesterday, but real results takes time. It's not a magic pill, but it helps make the process of weight loss easier and more effective over time. So I think it's unrealistic for somebody to think that they could get results immediately. And then, you can see as we go down, some of them I play around, I totally get that you want to lose weight, but unless you stop eating or remove a body part, this is the next best thing. So, it all depends, like Bobby said in the beginning, if you feel like playing around with them. A little shock and awe, I talk about the benefits, or actually the decrease of using one of the shots. But then, I like to throw in, do you know where that medicine comes from? And I say a Gilead monster venom, and look it up, and they're like, I told the girl today, and she was like, really? And she'd been using Ozempic for like 6 months. You can have a lot of fun with it. So it
You could
just
send them
depends
a
on what kind of
picture,
mood
right?
I'm in.
You could send them a picture of what that thing looks like. It's ugly.
Yeah, it's ugly. But just the fact that you're taking a poisonous venom from a lizard, it's crazy. But it's amazing. Most people have no idea. So again, it would be any of these depending on what kind of mood I was in. I'm playful, like Bobby said, objections, you have fun with them over a while. You really enjoy just answering some of these, particularly when you're in the mood and you've got a little extra energy. You just love to handle some of these objections. But those things don't work, meaning pyramid schemes again. And I just say, hey, it's funny. I know a lot of people in our company earning a lot of money. I can have you talk to some if you want, but I do know it works if you work. So, it's as simple as that. Are you willing to work? Because it works, but do you work? So I put it back on them. Do they work? And so that's just the pyramid schemes. I think that's probably the last one. And then we could open it up. Oh, no. Okay. All right. So I'm not a salesperson and I could never sell anything. So that's one that comes up a lot of times. And I usually say, especially for people that know me, I'm like, do I look like a salesperson? Anybody that knows me knows that I'm a extreme introvert, and certainly you would not pick me or hire me as a salesperson. But, I also get it. It's not about selling. When you love a product, you don't mind sharing it. And we're really looking to help people with, solve their problems. We're looking to help people have a solution to what's going on. I'm not looking to sell something to somebody that they don't need. And then I just let them know we've got a lot of training, to help you with that as well. So again, if there's a will, they'll definitely do it. But if they're just looking for an excuse, some objections, it's not about you, it's about them. And maybe they just don't want to work and they're looking for an easy way out as well. Okay. So I don't want to sell to my friends and family. And so, I don't get this because if you've got like the money tree or the numbers for the lottery or a real estate tip or something, man, you couldn't share it fast enough with your friends and family, but you've got an exciting cutting edge science here that could help them look and feel younger, and you feel funny about sharing that. So I think the problem there is you're worried about what you're going to gain on it instead of worrying about how you can best help that person. So when Bobby and I are sponsoring people in, I want to know, like sometimes I get people, can you just text me the information? I'm like, no, because I need to know what you want, what you expect to get out of this, how I can best help you. It's not about what I have to offer. It's how I can help you. So we need to have that conversation. So again, it's really just about helping them. It's not about what you've got to gain. You'll find that the minute, and even when you're telling your story and you're starting, if you're looking to close immediately, if your mind is on the close, whether it be product or opportunity, you won't get that close because the person will feel it from you. But if you're just sharing your genuine excitement and what's going on in your business and what's happened to you, whether it be product or opportunity, the results that you're getting, and caring about them getting those results, that close will happen. You won't have to ask for that close. They'll just say, how do I get it? I'm ready to get started. And, when they say that to me, I'm just like, great. Do you want to put it in? I can send you a link, or if you want, I'll take care of it. And I take their credit card and information, put it in for them, whatever is easiest for them. But, the last one again, Grant, let's figure out who you might want to approach. If they really don't want to talk to their friends and family, I want to figure out who you know first. And if we can figure out a niche and how you can go about approaching them, because, a lot of people, you talk to them and you realize that they've got people, maybe great friends or somebody that they weren't really thinking of, that maybe have a niche. Maybe they know somebody who, is in a medical field or in a spa or whatever it might be, a gym or something, that could be a niche. Maybe they're president of some nationality or something. So, that's the other way that we go around. So I'm pretty sure that's it then. Yeah. Okay. So let me get out of this and stop the share. Find my mouse. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about that, but let me stop this. There we go. Stop. Okay. All right. So that's back. And maybe if you've got other questions, let's see if there's anything in the chat. Okay, yeah. So some people wrote, yes, how to start the con. Yeah, so we'll do that. If not next week, we'll do that the following week, depending on what we have to bring back from conference. Um, I'm not good at talking to people. I'm not good at sales. We kind of went over that. I'm too busy, went over that, and I can't afford the entry cost. Yeah. So again, if it's not going to be, you're not going to get 100% of the people. This is the hardest business for perfectionists because there are always people that are going to believe that they don't have the money. And you can say, look, hey, what if your TV broke? What if you got a flat tire? You're going to need to come up with that money from somewhere. What if the kids broke a tooth or needed a cavity or something went on in your life? People have got to come up with money and they always figure out a way. So if they truly wanted to start, they would start. So you can play around with them and maybe it's something else that's going on, but ultimately it's up to them. The thing that we need to look at is the fear of loss has to be bigger than the fear to gain. So again, I always talk to people about what if you don't do this? Not you're going to be rich, you're going to have time freedom, you're going to have all these things, but what's your life look like if we continue going along at this pace? What if you don't choose? I mean, you can look back at us. What if we made big choices? Bobby's factory closed and he had to figure out something to do. But I left a really good career because we saw working together the upside of this as opposed to doing the secure thing. And I can tell you, we got lots of looks, especially from his dad, who just totally thought that I'd lost it because, had a really great career. I had benefits, that was like a big thing. So, it's amazing what people think is really good. But, we could buy benefits. But again, being very blue collar and where we came from, that's all he could see. And you may meet some very blue collar people. And I got to tell you, they are the best people in this industry because when you get them making a little bit of money, they get super hungry. And it's just amazing what you can do with them. Those are where you really hear these rag to riches stories. So sometimes they are very worth playing with and stuff. So, okay. So Alex said black tie event this weekend. Yeah. As you know, I was talking to somebody, Salt Lake is cold. There is I wouldn't say you have to be black tie, black tie. If you've got a tux, great, black suit, great. Sports jacket, we will be a little bit dressed up on Friday night compared to normal. But do dress warm. It's going to be cold. So inside and out, the convention center is cold too. So, all right. Any other ones or Bobby, you got some input from everything that I
Well,
said?
just the first slide that we're dealing with a lot of cold market now, so our sword is very sharp right now. We've had a lot of practice over the last 6 months, and it all comes down to you. Okay, it's not them, it's you. You got to remember, they don't know what you know, and they don't even know if they want to know what you know. Okay, they're just inquisitive. So they're either going to be drawn to you or you're going to push them away. And you don't mean to push them away, but they're looking for your posture. They're looking at your excitement. And sometimes they'll say something just to see if it bothers you or rattles you or gets inside your head. So it's always us, it's never them, because how could it be them if they're ignorant to what we got? It can't be them. See, they don't know. They don't know what we have. If they knew what the products did and how well they worked, if they knew that, people are making anywhere from $500 a month to 500,000 a month, they don't know. Okay. So they're looking, and I always said the most important thing that we could ever do when we're talking to another person, whether it's warm market or cold market, is it's not to get them to believe in what we have. It's to make sure that they believe that we believe what we have. See, they'll get involved with somebody that believes. Okay. It's a lot like church, folks. How do you get someone to go to church with you as a guest? If they're not sure that they believe, or they're not sure, okay, or maybe they're just shopping for a church, who knows? But they're gonna go if they believe you believe. They're going to go if you're excited, and they'll go with you. Okay? So the business is very similar to that in that we want people to be attracted to what we're excited about and what we believe in. And sometimes people say, look, we're among them. We all say dumb stuff at different times. Okay. Sometimes we mean to say it, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it still comes out of our mouth. Okay. And it's not personal. So a lot of times it's just a defense mechanism, and they're testing to see where are you really at with this. That's kind of what's going on with it. So if you have the right mental outlook towards it, you have a much easier time with it. And you'd be amazed at when you respond positively to something they said that could have been viewed negatively. Okay. And a lot of objections, let's face it, you could view them negatively, but you respond positively or ask a question, always respond with a question. Why do you feel that way? How did you get that opinion? Do you know somebody that did it? Do you know? And you keep digging and you find out they really don't have a logical reason. They're just looking to see if you believe or I believe in what's going on. That's all there is to it. And we're seeing it more and more as we do more social media advertising and different things. We're just seeing it that and keep in mind, okay, and I know, a lot of you are just dealing with warm market, not cold market, but keep in mind if you ever do deal with cold market, there are a lot of scammers out there. Especially on social media. Okay, there's a lot of scamming that goes on. So you can't get mad at them for saying something that may have happened to them. You just gotta be you and be real. Okay. And something else I want to, edify that April said that just hit the nail right on the head. And when someone says, can you send me information? Now, April handles that one way. I kind of handle it a different way, but we're both handling it. When someone says, can you send information? I'm never sending information if we haven't already talked to each other. I don't even know if I want the person. Why would I send them information on my business and agree to give my time and energy to that person if I don't even know if I like them or want them? And even worse than that, they don't know if they like or want me. So why in the world would I ever give them information about my business without first having a conversation with them and seeing if we could work together or we would like to work together? And I had the same conversation with the guy with the pyramid comment that I mentioned earlier. I said, if you can't see yourself working with me to build a business, we don't need to talk anymore. I said, if we ever happen to be in the same area and you can't see yourself getting a hamburger with me or having a beer with me or something, we do not need to go any further. Because if we're going to build a big business, we're going to get to know each other personally. There's no other way around it. And I'll handle it that way. I don't care. If I don't like them or they don't like me, we might as well snip the cord right in the beginning. Okay. So that's why I don't, and let's face it, you and I both know this. The odds of them watching a video from somebody they don't even know if they like is slim and none. Okay, especially 30 minutes, like a replay of our one of our launches. The only way they're going to watch it is if you got their attention from talking to them in person. Okay, that's the only way. So, they're just some tips. I hope that's helpful. We got a couple minutes if you have anything you want to throw out there that we haven't mentioned. Otherwise, we are really looking forward to seeing you all in Utah. And it's not going to be as cold as April said. It's going to be in the 50s and 60s. It's not
Oh,
going to
no.
be ice skating and skiing weather, okay? It's going to be a little better than that, but
I looked at the weather, it said 70. I was
Oh.
very happy.
I like all your weather better.
Now, granted, it's been hitting close to 90 here in Florida, so it'll
Yeah.
be cooler, but I can handle 60s. That's not a big deal, you know. It's
Yeah.
like
All
no,
right.
it'll be fun out there. And but for
So,
ladies, if you haven't been to a conference lately, they keep like the Soul Palace and these big conventions, they keep them cold. So it's always a good idea to
yeah,
bring a sweat jacket, or Jaya likes to bring her blankie with her.
blankets.
She's got some nice blankies.
No, I carry two, three shawls.
Shawls, right? I call them blankies. She calls them shawls. Okay, but it's but
And
it
Dr. Erica asked about dress code. So I'll see if I can find a formal thing for you, where, uh,
there was an outline of that. If you could just send her that.
yeah, I got to find that. Yeah, and I'll send it to you.
Okay.
So I see your message. So yeah, I'll send that to you.
Anyone else? Okay, so remember, we'll see you in global. If not, you need to be really relaying what's going on to the people that didn't make it. But we'll be back on Sunday night to recap global and also just prep again for Monday night. But based on the excitement that's going to be there for Monday, you want to make this the opportunity Zoom where you've had the most attendees on. Okay, you definitely there's going to be a lot of new stuff to share, and there's going to be a lot of excitement. So anyway, Lynn wants a dress code thing too. So if you wear nice clothes and some of them are black, you'll be okay. So anyway, have a good evening, everyone, and we'll see you in a few days in Utah. Bye bye.